Okay, Laura, let's get started with the training here. First thing I want to show you is how to set up the new account with Sociamonials. So when you first sign up, it's going to send you here to Account Preferences. And this is where you're going to add all of your social media accounts. And to do that, you would just add the account by clicking here. And when you click this button, it's going to ask you to enter your login information from that social media account, and it will add it down here below. We've got some test accounts set up already, so I can continue the training after we set this up. But after I would click Add Account, it would add this down here. If you click it again, it's going to add a third, and it would go on indefinitely. As long as you have enough user accounts in your the plan you selected, it will just keep adding them. Once you add an account, Sociamonials goes out and finds out all of the different fan pages that you have attached to that account, and it will let you choose those here. Just note that the checkboxes, what that means is that's a default account. So you would still have access to add that account if you're publishing to social or setting up a campaign. But to save time in the future, if you have an account you use all the time and one that you don't use all the time, you would want to make the account you use every time the default and not the other one. And I'll show you when we start publishing to social what happens with the defaults.
Okay.
Moderation settings, and feel free to ask questions if I'm going too quickly, just stop me. So the moderation settings, there are 3 different settings for this, and this only has to do with your campaigns. So when people submit, say, a photo or a video to a campaign, you don't want that necessarily to immediately go to all of your social media accounts and all of their social media accounts, as well as the campaign microsite. You might want to approve those first to make sure they're within the guidelines that you set forth with your campaign. So there are 3 ways to do it. The one we recommend is one-click moderation. So the individual user who is set up as the moderator will receive an email, and with that email, it'll show you what the person submitted, and you can just click it once from your cell phone, and without logging into anything, it will just approve it. This is the most easy to use. The standard moderation will require you to enter all your login credentials for Sociamonials before you can approve it. And then the third is delayed automatic moderation, where it will still send you the email, but it will automatically post if you do nothing. Otherwise, you can click a button and immediately approve it. Any questions about that?
No.
Okay, so the analytics integration, this is a more advanced integration that you can do. Out of the box, we have Google Analytics integration set up. But if you're using something else like Omniture, for example, you can pass along custom information with all of the links that you create using your campaigns, your share buttons, publishing to social, because what makes Sociamonials unique is that every link that you create or gets shared through Sociamonials, it's automatically shortened, and before it's shortened, we add all of your social integration code to those links. So to give you an example, this is by default what is added to the end of all of the links that you create. And this just saves you a lot of time. So you're not having to add all of your social analytics code to the end of your links and then having to go to Bitly to shorten them and then posting those. It will add this all automatically. So there's certain variables that you can insert into these strings, these URL strings, before they're shortened. And let me show you the custom values. So what you can do, for example, is add a source. So for example, this would be like, this might insert video contest if what people are sharing is from a video contest. Or it might add sign up campaign. If you're doing like a click here to sign up for my email newsletter, then it asks them to share with their friends. And if they share it to their friends, the link that gets shared will say sign up campaign. Down here is name, and that would be maybe sign up campaign number 2 or cutest baby contest for if it's a video contest or a photo contest. And the network. Was it Facebook, was it Twitter, or LinkedIn or email that they shared with, or even Pinterest? And it will customize what the variable that's passed along based on the network that the end user shares to. So this is how we insert these. You would just select this, and it will drop in one of these bracketed codes here. So this is the fixed information, and this is the variable that will get inserted at the time that the URL is created.
So
you
right
can customize that.
What you're showing is all three of them in there, the name, the source, and the network?
Yes.
And so if you only wanted to know like the source, you could remove the other ones and just check the source to be in there?
Exactly.
That makes sense? Okay.
And you might have a situation where you need to pass the source twice. If you're using multiple tracking sources, you might have conversion rulers set up that's looking at your ROI measurements, and you might have Google Analytics that's looking at mainly your on-site experience, and you've got goals set up. So there could very easily be 2 or even 3 sources that you need to pass along with different parameter names, and it can do that no problem.
Okay.
So I've got this set to shorten and track all shared links. You would always want to have this checked unless you're in Europe or someplace where there's some law where you don't want to track, and you haven't set up that disclaimer, for example. But in the United States, you would always want to shorten and track all shared links. Conversion tracking code, this is something that you would paste once into your pages, and then you can forget about it. So the way you set this up is there are 2 different conversion events that can take place that Sociamonials will track. One is a lead conversion event, and that's what this is here. So for example, the best example is like a white paper. So if you've got content that people need to fill out a form to obtain, you would probably want to track that, because at that point that individual becomes a lead, and you might start marketing to them. So that's a pretty valuable conversion, and you want to be able to track that, maybe separate from somebody who's actually taken the plunge at the bottom of the funnel and bought something from you. So with the lead conversion, you would just click within here, and it will highlight it for you. Copy this code and paste it anywhere within your document's body tags within the HTML. So you would need to access your page's HTML. And the page this goes on is the one where it would say, like, thank you for downloading this white paper. Or if it's an email newsletter, thank you for signing up for this newsletter. Because the only way they can load that page is if they successfully filled out the form. And this gets a little confusing because Sociamonials also creates sign-up forms for emails and white papers. So even if you're using Sociamonials to create a landing page with the thank you page attached to it, you would still want to go and paste this code in your Sociamonials thank you page HTML code. And we'll get to that in the more advanced training tomorrow when we talk about setting up a lead generation campaign. And if it happens to be a secure page where it says HTTPS in this area up here, you would always want to check this. Otherwise, it might give people that error message saying that there's mixed content, some secure, some not secure. So if you want to use our secure server for this pixel, you'd want to check here.
Okay.
Like I said, the way to check that is if the page that says thank you for signing up has the S at the end, you would always want to check this box. So jumping down to the shopping cart order confirmation page, this is really important because this is how you track revenue from all of your social activity. You would check the box if it's an HTTPS page, and if you want us to track revenue, like if you have an e-commerce site, you would check this button here. Otherwise, you would deselect that, and you can still track orders as they occur, but if you don't want to pass the revenue amount back to Sociamonials to track it, you don't have to do that, and you would just deselect this. But we want to do that for this example. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can have a fixed revenue amount. Let's just say you sell an ebook that's $20, and that's your only product. You can just type $20 where it says revenue, and then put that code in there. That way, every time somebody gets to the thank you for purchasing page, it'll just pass the $20 value back. If you have a shopping cart with a number of different items, you would want to dynamically pass back the revenue amount. And to do that, see where it says revenue equals 0.00, you would replace the 0.00 fixed value with a parameter. And all shopping carts are different. You would need to check with your shopping cart provider for adding a variable there where they will create that number. It has to be an integer, so with the .00. No special characters, like you'd want to make sure they aren't passing along a dollar sign, for example, just a numeral. And once they pass this value along, Sociamonials will collect that information and attribute it back to all of the activity, the specific user that shared it. It'll track it back to the campaign that it was shared to, and aggregate all that information in your reporting. So just you would contact your support person at Sociamonials when you're setting this up if it's not super clear with your shopping cart provider how to do this.
Okay.
So profanity filter, you can, if I were you, I would just check the box and make sure you've got your profanity filter selected. You can edit the word list, but it's pretty complete. There's some pretty profane things in there. So, but if you live in a certain, certain country or something where you've got a bunch of other words that people might use, or things that are sensitive for your industry, for example, that you don't want people to say for legal reasons, that's a great place to add it, because if any of your users try to post a social with that word, it's going to stop them and give them an error message.
Do you in that list, so it doesn't necessarily, I'm understanding, need to be profanity, just words that you wouldn't want, and it filters it for you. Do you have anything in that list already pertaining to those spam comments that people post in regards to like paying for followers or like any of that kind of stuff that happens more often now?
Nothing like that. It's all profane words.
Can we add something like that in there, or does it have to just be profanity?
Any kind of word you want.
Okay.
It'll just look for those characters all in a row, and then it will flag it. Okay.
Sounds good. Smaller companies starting out seem to attract those type of spam commenters. And
definitely true. All companies have different policies. They like social policies. Some kind of welcome that stuff, and because they have really great customer service, and they're really good at responding to it. So they kind of want it out there. I don't know. It's we try not to get too involved with restricting your use of it. Just go ahead and paste whatever you want in there, and it should work well.
Perfect.
So email notification preferences. And by the way, these little question mark icons, you can always hover over them, and we try to keep our help in line. There are help files up at the top right of every page, but it's easier to just kind of look at this because it's specific to for tips on what you're actually using at the moment. So within the email notification preferences, what this is this only has to do with our campaigns. So if you create a campaign that is generating HTML email responses to people, for example, if they sign up for an email newsletter, you might want to fire off a real quick email to them saying, hey, thanks for doing that. Click here to share our company with your friends. You want that email to look very professional, and you want it to look like it comes from you and not from Sociamonials. So what you want to do is make sure that the sender information is correct here. That way, every time you're creating a new HTML email, it's always going to have the right sender, name, and email. You can change it within that email, but this is the default, so you're not constantly having to recreate this information. Same thing down here. This is your custom HTML template. This is a huge time saver because you might have 36 templates that you manage within Sociamonials. For example, we have certain campaigns that have 4 different triggered emails, and to have that, so you need to set up the branding for each one of those is pretty tedious. So with a custom HTML template, you can set up a branded template with HTML that kind of wraps around all of the custom messaging for each of the different campaigns you're running within Sociamonials. So for example, you might have your standard HTML email header and footer, and right in the middle of that HTML, you would just need to type in this, which is the left bracket, message, right bracket. And what our system will do is insert the custom message for that particular campaign inside your branded template. So the nice header and the nice footer will appear, and the custom message will be magically dropped in right into the middle. So that's a
Oh,
big
nice.
time saver. And this is something that you can just check your box that you want to use this custom template. If you want to do that, you would browse and look for an HTML file on your hard drive. So once you create that, you would want to select it here and then send a test to yourself to make sure it worked. And what our system will do is enter some, sample messages and just throw it in the middle of the template and make sure it all renders properly. And if not, you want to fix that before you move on. It's important to note here, when you're creating a custom HTML template that has images in it, make sure those images are hosted on your server somewhere and that all of your image references are to that remote server. Otherwise, when people receive it, if all the images are on your hard drive and you're referencing your local hard drive for the images, when you upload it to our server and it's sent out to some other server where your end user lives, then it's going to be looking on their hard drive for your images, and obviously it's not going to find it. So it's always best practice to create images that are referenced to some remote server that anybody in the world can access. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And you'll know right away, because when you send the test, try sending it to your cell phone and see if it works there too. Because if you send it to your home computer, it might work because again, that's the computer that has the images. So try sending the test to both places, and you'll notice right away if that's a problem.
Okay.
So default company share information, I recommend uploading your company logo here and a company description, because on a lot of our functions, we have the option to check a box to just share your company information as the default share. It just saves you time if you want to add a quick note to people that sign up for emails, for example. By the way, why don't you share, Acme Company, whatever the name of your company is. Share this information with your friends or colleagues. They might be interested too. It saves you time to have a perfect share already set up so you can just quickly add that to your campaign. It's just a time saver.
Okay.
The next feature here is to add your privacy policy link to your campaign entry forms. This is best practice when creating a form. If somebody doesn't know you, they might want to know what your privacy policy is before they give you all their personal information. And you can enter your the URL to your privacy policy page on your website, and it will automatically insert a link to that on all of your campaign forms.
Okay.
Next, we have campaign domain name personalization. Anytime you create a campaign in Sociamonials, it's going to create a custom URL for that campaign, because we will host a microsite for you. Of course, you can also add it to your Facebook page. You can embed it within your website. But when it creates a microsite, you want something that's more personalized. So here's an example. This is our test account. So it just threw the name of our company, our test company here. What you would want to do is it's going to insert the name of your company as well. Just take a look, make sure it's what you want. You might want to get more personal with it or use something different. But those pages will be yourname.sociamonials.com / the name of the campaign.
Okay.
White label applications, this is available to enterprise users. And what this allows you to do is when you check on a box here, it will allow you to add the app ID and the app secret. And it's beyond the scope of this training to set one up, but we do have information available. If you don't know how to set up a Facebook app ID, you can shoot support an email, and we can send you this documentation. It's fairly simple and straightforward to do. And once you obtain that app ID, you would plug the information that Facebook provides you in these fields. And what that does is anytime you create a share button with Sociamonials or a campaign, and one of your end users wants to share using that campaign or share button, instead of saying Sociamonials wants permission to share this for you when they first use the utility, it will say your company, whatever the name of that company is, would want permission to share. And people trust it more, and it looks more branded. It looks like you've got this big team of developers that created this application, and it's much more impressive. So I recommend you take the step to create your white label applications. And once you're done, you always want to save any changes that you made. So what I want to do at this time is let's jump into, before I move on, do you have any questions about that?
No. Later I'll probably ask more about the third-party integration for the apps, but not right now.
Okay, very good. Well, the manage users, I'm going to jump in here and let's create a quick user. When you want to create a new user, click New. And these are important because you don't want to give everybody on your team your Facebook credentials, your LinkedIn credentials, things like that, because then if they leave the company, then you have to change all of your Facebook credentials, and if you forget, and the other credentials as well, if you forget to do that, if they didn't leave on, amicable terms, then they could do horrible things, post terrible things to your pages. So you want to create user accounts for these people instead, and if you want to change the permissions in the future, you can very quickly do that. You could either shut down their account completely, or if their roles change where they don't need to have access to every feature, you can just custom tailor their roles that they have access to. So let's create one really quickly, and I can show you. So we're going to call this test user 5 as a username. Enter the password twice. Enter test user email address. And this needs to be a real email address because if there's a if let's say they post something to social and there's an issue, it's going to send them an email at this email address saying that, hey, you need to go back and address this issue because something didn't post to Facebook the way it should have, for example.
Okay.
First and last name. If they're in another part of the country, they can localize their time zone and adjust for daylight savings if it's a state that observes that. Here's where it gets fun. You can actually assign permissions very discreetly for this particular user. So, for example, you might not want them to be able to use the campaigns and share buttons function, but they do post to social media. So you can disable certain things and enable, like maybe giving them access to reports or publishing to social. So just to run through some of these, approving text, posts, photos, and videos. So this is like as things are submitted, you can enable this and allow a user to approve those photos and videos as they're coming through from your campaigns. And for example, if this is disabled, the approve button would just disappear. When that person logged in, they wouldn't see it. So accessing reports is pretty straightforward. Publishing to social, there's a couple of advanced features here. If this is enabled, you can have some sub-options where you immediately post what they post to social media, or you can hold those for approval. And when you do that, it's going to ask you, like, which other user do you want to approve those posts? And if you do this, you can have it auto-approve after a certain number of minutes. And what happens is it'll send an email to the user that approves it, and if they don't do anything with it, it'll just auto-approve. Most people don't choose this, but if it's a super busy person that's doing the approving, they might just want a heads up, and only if there's a big problem then they would stop it.
Okay.
Any questions about those permissions?
Nope.
All right, so down below, we have a set of permitted accounts that this particular user can access. So what I can do is say, well, I don't want them to have access to the CEO of the company's LinkedIn account, but I do want them to have access to, our normal permitted account. So you can do that for each one of these, and it will give them access only to those. So literally, that won't be an option when they're publishing to social. That won't even be listed as an option to post to if you deselect it here. Access customer information. This is pretty important nowadays. I mean, personal information, if it gets shared to the wrong people, you actually could be legally liable as a company for that breach. So you want to make sure to only give customer database information to the right people. And within each of our campaigns, you have the ability to export your database.
Okay.
we can disable that option here just by clicking disabled.
Okay.
So at that point, I can add this particular user, and it says user created. What I can do now is I can make that person, let me go directly to the one we created. I have a couple options here. I can highlight them and make them an admin, and once I do that, you can see the A. I can also make them the moderator. Just keep in mind that when you do that, you can have only one moderator on an account. So now this will be the one moderator. And what a moderator is that is the individual that will be emailed when an end user submits a photo or a video to a campaign. That's all that person does.
Okay.
So there can only be one because you don't want 5 different people getting these emails, because which one really gets to approve it or not? You want one point of approval for those end user submissions. You can have 5 different admins. Everybody can be an admin. And what an admin has access to is the account preferences up here and adding users. They can also make edits to any published message that's been scheduled. So you're giving them a lot of permissions if you make them an admin, so you want to do that sparingly. Any questions about users?
Nope.
All right, let's move on to publishing to social media. This is where you would do your day-to-day social publishing. And you'll notice that these are the default accounts. I mentioned in the account preferences, you can make things a default or not. It's hidden some accounts and it's included some accounts. So if you want to reveal more and add more, these are the ones that were not checked as a default. So you can add these just by clicking on them, and notice how it drops them down below here. And if I want to remove accounts, I would just click the X. So you can just tailor where you want these to go. So let's post to these accounts. And what I like to do is I type my message first. So I'm going to enter this as a test post. Now I've got a couple of options here. I'd like to attach a link to this message, but some people want to only paste a photo. So what I'm going to do on this one, let's first create a message where we attach a link. So we're going to choose Guayaquil as the link that we're posting. So when I click Update Preview, what it's going to do is it's going to go out to Guayaquil, and it's going to pull all of the images it finds on this particular page of their website and drop it in the preview. So over here in the preview, you can see this is the image it found and this is the information it found on the page. So if I like this, I'm done. If I want to change it, I can click Edit Attachment and change what's shared. So you can scroll through all the different images that are found on the page. So I'm going to change to this particular image. If I don't like that image, I have a couple other options. I can upload an image or I can reuse a previous image. So if you have one that you use frequently, just click Reuse and select Image, and you can choose from all the different images that you've uploaded previously because they're all stored in what we call an asset library. And the asset library stores assets for all of these different things, and we'll go through those in tomorrow's training, like our share buttons, fan page tabs. There's different folders where you can access the different images. From here, I can upload a new image or select one or close. I can also do a direct upload from here if I have a unique image for this particular post. So in this case, I'm going to do neither. I'm just going to select this particular image from the page. I also don't like what it has to say here, so I'm going to change this to try Guayaquil Organic Yerba Mate. And if I want to add a Facebook subtitle, I can do that here. Otherwise, Facebook is just going to show the link under the title. And in the description, maybe this is too lengthy, so what I want to do is take off this last part.
Quick question about the images.
Sure.
Does it pull a certain size or requirement of size? Like, so say you had a very, very large font-sized image on your website, is it still going to pull that down with the rest of the images, or does it stop at a certain pixel size? Does that make
It's a really
sense?
good question. Yes, it does apply those filters. So when it scrapes the page, it's running a filter. So, for example, Facebook has like I believe it's a 2:3 requirement for an aspect ratio on an image, and it applies whatever the Facebook criteria is. So it's not going to bring something in that doesn't meet Facebook specifications, and it does that for LinkedIn and Facebook. Twitter is more generous. So yeah, it uses the most restrictive one, and it applies that filter. So good question.
Okay.
It tries to protect you from making a mistake.
Yeah.
So it doesn't go out there and post, and then you find out a week later it's not the way you wanted it to look.
Okay.
So notice that I'm over on the character counter. What would happen if I post this is it's going to truncate wherever Facebook wants, right? So you might want to go in here and say, well, this is obviously way too long for Facebook's API requirements, or even posting on their site, because obviously they can't post unlimited text on an attachment. So I'm going to take out more until it says I have characters available, just so I'm certain of how this will look when it posts. Now this looks good to me, and this information looks good. So what I'm going to do is go to Edit Message. Because I'm posting to both Facebook and LinkedIn, it's going to allow me to add something to my message. So instead of this is a test post, I might want to add something more personal for my Facebook audience versus my LinkedIn audience. I use kind of a different language with them. So maybe at the end of my Facebook post, I might say, like this, for example, like this post might be more appropriate. And then at the end of the LinkedIn post, it might say something like, share with colleagues. I'm sure your team does a much better job at copywriting than I do. But what will happen is, so when this post goes out, it's going to publish to all three of these social accounts on these three different social networks. On all of the LinkedIn accounts that are added, it's going to add share with colleagues to the end of your message. For all the Facebook posts, it's going to add like this post to the end of your message. So it kind of personalizes the language for a specific network. So now that these two are done, I'm going to go down and look at my tweet. So you can actually edit your tweet separate from everything else. So with your tweet, you might want to say, you would never want to do this, but let's turn post into a hashtag, right? And then say, that might be all you need to do is just add a hashtag. Maybe you also want to say T as well. And you can also change the link separate from what was done over here, and it'll create a whole separate link for your tweet. If you want to send your Twitter universe to a different URL, you can do that, or maybe add a specific Twitter tracking code for a different system you have. So you can do that as well, and it will share this particular tweet. So next thing I want to do is schedule this, and we'll go through another post where we'll do a different kind of post. But for now, I just want to share a link only. So I want to schedule this. I can either do that by scheduling at a specific future date and just use the calendar here to do that. Select it and then click anywhere outside of the calendar, and it will minimize. So here's where that time and day appears. What I can also do is click Optimal. Let me show you how this works. So what this does is this pulls up the best particular time to post the message if you want to get the most click-throughs. What you can also do, though, is make it for the most lead conversions or sale conversions. So if your goal is sale conversions for this particular post, let's say you're posting a coupon, you might choose to click sale conversions, and it will recalculate your best times based on the posts that have the most sales associated with them. So it will automatically figure that out for you. And you always want to click on the one with the darkest color unless you have a specific reason for not wanting to post it then. Some strategic reason, maybe you don't have staff available at that time. You can choose one of these others. So the darker colored ones are the best. So when you click that, it's going to select it and drop it in here. And notice that you can also, if you don't care if it goes out today or tomorrow, you might choose to click today and tomorrow. And for today and tomorrow, it's going to group them together and figure out with the next 48 hours when is the best time to post this. And it looks like it's tomorrow based on my account. So I'm going to choose tomorrow. So when I'm done with that, I'm going to click Publish, or I can save it as a draft. But for this case, I'll click Publish. Great. Message is scheduled. And I'll show you in a minute where that goes because I can go and view all my scheduled and previously sent posts. But before we do that, let's publish to social again. And this time I want to do a completely different kind of post. It's very popular for people to have like those really huge images in the news feed on Facebook. And the best way to do that is to do an image post instead of a link post. So let me show you how to do that with Sociamonials, but also get a link in your message. So what you would do is this is a photo post. What I would do here is I'm just going to type in the URL that I want to share up here instead of attaching a link. Now, I can add up to 5 different links per post, and our system will automatically figure out which ones are links. It will add the right code to the end of all of them, and then shrink them all with separate shortened links, all in one step. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put it here instead. And let's see, our new bottled drink. I might have a separate link I'm going to post here. Beverage. So instead of attaching a link, I'm going to attach a photo. I can also attach a video if I wanted, and it will have the video super large within the news feed instead of really focusing on the link and then just having a tiny little thumbnail that's associated with that link. I can record a video using the built-in recorder. I can upload a video from my hard drive, and when I do either of these, it's going to also upload those to YouTube, to my YouTube channel if I want, along with all of the SEO and the YouTube title information that you might want to pass along. Just to give you an example, I can specify which YouTube channel that's attached to my account. But for purposes of this training, let's select upload a video or upload a photo. You can also attach to an external video. If you already have something on YouTube, you can post that as well, and it simplifies that process. So to upload a photo, I'm just going to click Browse. And let's go to my screenshots. I'm going to grab a recent screenshot. So it'll upload that and attach it here. So notice how it does have a URL and a link, but it also has the photo large instead of being over here with a description, a link description, and a link title over here on the right. So I can also notice that over in the tweet, it has the picture as a separate link here, because in your tweet, it's also going to include that image, versus if you do a link attachment instead of the photo attachment, it's not going to upload a separate image. It's just going to have the text and the link. So that's a very important distinction of attaching a video or a photo. Do you have any questions about that? Laura, are you there? Okay, looks like I've lost you.
No, I'm here. I was on mute.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Any questions
no,
about that?
I don't have any questions. No, I was talking
okay,
to
good.
you. No.
All right. Well, I hope I didn't. I was worried I put you to sleep. That's not a good sign.
No, I was.
Okay.
My office got a little loud here, so I didn't want
No
it to
trouble
be
at all.
translating.
Okay. Well, I'm going to post this, and let's go and take a look at this post. So I'm going to publish this now instead of scheduling it for later, because I want to show you a couple things. So that message was published. What I'm going to do now is click on this verification report, And what this is it goes out to the different social networks and verifies that those were posted. And the nice thing about that is I can actually view the live post by clicking here, and it will take me to the post. Notice how it's got the attachment right here, and notice how both of those links were created separately and shortened. So I can just verify that the posts went out the way they were supposed to. This is a real time saver. If your client expects you to go out and verify the posts or take screenshots.
Will it verify even if you don't do the API app that we were talking about earlier?
Yes. Yeah, the API was just to white label your permission, those authentication windows that pop up whenever you try to use these apps.
Okay.
So this is a standard feature that is automatically going to work. For example, if you like to boost posts, it's a quick way to do it because then you can just click on View Live Post and then click the boost. So it's a real time saver if you like to promote your posts.
Oh, perfect.
So I'm going to jump into Message Manager. This is where you can see a nice timeline of all of the different posts that you've sent because it's in chronological order. And what you can do is, let's say I want to resend that, or I want to resend something I've sent in the past. I can click on that and then click Open as Copy. And what happens is it's going to pull up that exact same post with everything selected that was selected the first time I sent it. So I can go in and edit that. Just note that, see this error message? Take note of that because it's extremely important. And let me show you what I mean. I'm going to change this from products to, let's see, beverages. Because I don't want to repost exactly the same thing. I want to change it up a little bit, which I recommend doing. Some people kind of repost the exact same thing throughout the day. It's good to mix it up at least a little bit in case somebody searches your timeline and they see back-to-back all of the exact same posts. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit, but notice that my tweet did not update. That's because I've modified my tweet. And if you've modified your tweet, you don't want it to overwrite all this custom stuff that you've done. So I'm going to, let's say I want to remove the hashtag. Let's see. I can just change it slightly and then publish that immediately. Any questions about that feature?
Nope.
I'm going to leave this page without sending. So another thing I could do, let's say I sent the message out just a few minutes ago and I screwed up. It's actually not Guayaki Beverage. It's actually Guayaki Drinks /drinks. I can change a link, and notice that there's 4 different links here. What happens is it creates a separate link for Twitter and a separate link for the Facebook and LinkedIn posts. So I'm going to have to change it in 2 places. The first one is always the Facebook and LinkedIn, and the second one is going to be your Twitter link that you shared. So I'm going to change this to drinks. Just by clicking on beverage, it will turn into an editable field. When I click save, even if this thing's been retweeted 1,000 times, the shortened rfr.bz link that was posted will be the same, but it will now redirect to the new page. So you just saved yourself a lot of grief and embarrassment by fixing the link on the back end. So that's a huge time saver. So keep this one in mind. You can also recreate a verification report, by the way. So I can just highlight it and go in here, and I can always see the verification report on old posts. Scheduled. The way this folder works is anybody on your team, you can see scheduled posts, but only the individual who created the post can edit it, or an admin can also edit it, any user's posts that have been scheduled. Any questions about this?
Can you edit, say you had something scheduled for links, can you edit that link in the scheduled as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, you can edit anything about the post before it goes out and then save it. So moving on to drafts, if you save a bunch of things as drafts, this is where they would appear. And of course you can delete those or edit them. Any questions about that?
Nope.
Great. Well, at this point, I want to jump into reporting, and let's look at the published messages report because that's what we just trained on. So within published messages report, you've got a bunch of options here. I'm just going to run through an overview. So as we scroll down, the top part is adding metrics that you want to see in your reports. And then you've got a section here which shows you each of your published messages within that time frame. And by hovering over them, you can see some information about the posts. You can see what the message was, when it was posted, and how many referred visits. If you had revenue associated, this is our test accounts. We don't have revenue or leads or any retweets or things. But if you had that, it would be stacked here on top of your chart. So let me expand this to all dates. And it's going to recalculate all of the KPIs, all of the information on the reports, looking at all of the dates. So now you can see there's some green ones. If you hover over that, it will tell you that there were 3 conversions on this day. So over here, you can also select specific posts if you just want to run a report on one specific post. And as we scroll down, this is more of a timeline of events. So this is going to show you your trends over time for all of the selected posts and time ranges. So now you can see, like here's your revenue curve over time. This is a test account, so it has very unnatural curves, but you can see over here with some peaks. This isn't a specific post, but it's going to give you, like, in aggregate for that day, here's what happened. And you can always zoom in just by drag selecting and look at this particular area on a broader scale. Down at the bottom, these are all of your KPIs. So you can see your revenue for each one of the social networks or YouTube.
Okay.
Any comments, conversions, and conversions basically means a lead or a sale. And those are broken up here. We've got our sales, our leads. So as you can see, Facebook is bringing in the most sales. These were all, tests. So this is probably very different than what you would see on your reports. Referred visits, you can see Twitter. This is actually pretty natural. People see the most visits on Twitter. So these are click-throughs on all those shortened links you've been sharing.
Can you say you had, like, when you're originally setting this up and you had 2 different Facebook pages on your one account, can you break down this reporting per that Facebook page individually?
That's a good question. No, you can't. It's going to aggregate all of your Facebook activity for all of your Facebook accounts. And here's
but you can break it down by network?
You can break it down by network.
Okay.
The way we're able to do this and report on ROI is we create, let's say you have, like when we publish that message, let's say we had 5 different links within the message we sent, and we sent it to all 3 different networks. We're actually going to be creating 15 shortened links because the only way we can do this and track revenue is we're creating a separate shortened link for each of the social networks for each of the links that were shared. So you've got all these different shortened links that are out there. So what we would have to do that would, let's say we have 5 different Facebook accounts that you're posting to, there would be potentially 100 different shortened links, and that just starts to become unmanageable. Like let's say you have, if you have 20 links and you have 5 or 20 networks or network accounts that you've created with your account, and you've got 5 different links you're sharing, that would literally be 100 different shortened links that you're trying to manage, and it just gets to be a bit much. So we decided, okay, Facebook, we're going to aggregate all your Facebook accounts so you can be making business decisions based on, okay, which networks do we want to invest money in next year for maybe promoted posts or some of your other strategies. So at least by network, you can see which one is bringing in the most for you.
Okay. That's where then, too, if they were 2 separate companies, you would recommend, I'm assuming, to get 2 different accounts then so that you can separate it out?
Yeah, each account is really designed to be for a brand. That way all of the different reports and tracking that's being aggregated is for that brand. And same thing for reporting. There's just no way to tag it for 2 different two different companies or two different brands and then report on them separately. It's a single brand. That's how we keep our rates so low. We price things so you can afford to have one for each brand. So jumping over, I want to show you one other thing. There's a chart view, which we're in now, and there's also a data view. Some people prefer the data view. So this just gives you each of your posts. It shows you the message, when it was published, most recent to oldest, and which networks were posted to, and some other information here. So this is more of like a spreadsheet format. What you can do, we actually allow you to change a link from within this interface as well. You can also export to CSV. So if you want to export to a spreadsheet, you can do that here. That way, like let's say you've done 500 posts. It's kind of nice to have a spreadsheet with your 500 posts on it. So you can do some more deep analytics if you want to see the ones that had the most clicks or the most revenue, for example. I can click on that, and this will sort it for you based on the most revenue. Or you could do that within your spreadsheet and see, very quickly, okay, which are the ones that are generating revenue? You might go over here. It's just kind of good learnings. It's like what types of keywords did I have in there that I might be able to expound upon, maybe do more with that in my strategy for next year because those links are very engaging, or they result in the most revenue. So I'm going to, and you can limit it by, like if you specifically want to know, like within Twitter, what are the keywords that are really driving the clicks, or what type of posts are really driving the most click-throughs. You can do that very quickly. One other thing I can show you is you can arrange this by date or change it to message length. So you might find that, like if you hover over this, the message length is only 4 characters because obviously the message was test, versus at the end of the spectrum, look at how long this message is. There's 106 characters. So I encourage everyone to use this after you've been using our system for a few months, just to see if there's a correlation between really short messages or really long messages. You might find that you're getting more engagement for long messages. It's really different for every company, depending on your particular audience. If you have a well-educated audience, or if you have a millennial or younger audience who, depending on your brand and your audience and what their goals are, they might respond differently to really short messages versus long.
Okay.
And you can output these reports as a PDF. You can send them to your printer. The best way to share with like a client would be to download a PDF and just email it to them. Or create a user account for them and only give them permission to view reports. Then they can view the reports as a real-time dashboard.
Oh, okay.
So that's the end of today's basic training, and tomorrow we'll get into the more advanced training where we'll talk about how to create a campaign and how to create share buttons and how you moderate user posts and approve those and manage all of those assets that you've created. Like if you've got a bunch of user videos and user photos, how do you create galleries, maybe put those galleries on different pages on your website, your fan pages, create mobile optimized microsites, and some of the more exciting features of Sociamonials. Do you have any questions before we end the basic training?
No, I think I'm good.
Great. All right, well, thank you for your time, Laura, and we will talk tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Okay, I stopped the recording.
I figured.